question last November. Have they asked Treasury officials to look at it?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, as is the normal process in developing any policy, we can consider a range of options, but we have decided this gets the balance right between raising revenue in a fair way whilst offering generous reliefs within the agricultural property relief and business property relief system. And may I just say, Mr Speaker, that when I heard the honourable lady stand up and begin a sentence with, "As the Liberal Democrats, we oppose," I was hardly surprised.
Rebecca Paul.
Question number 5, Mr Speaker.
With permission, Mr Speaker, I should like to answer this question together with question number 23. We are investing in Britain's future, putting in place the plans needed to get Britain building again after 14 years of Tory failure. Since the election, we've had 5 interest rate cuts. Wages have risen more than in the first 10 years, more in the first 10 months of this Labour government than they did in the first 10 years of the previous Conservative government, and we're the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of this year.
Rebecca Paul.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the Chancellor for that response. This year, interest on debt is expected to total £111 billion. This is 8.3% of total public spending. What are the Chancellor's plans to rebuild confidence in the gilt market, and how confident is she that we won't be reliving the worst bits of the 70s again?
Chancellor.
The best way to make sure that we continue to have the confidence in the gilt markets is to keep the Tories and Liz Truss as far away from running the economy as possible. We have brought stability back to the economy, and there has been 5 cuts in interest rates. This is in sharp contrast to the disaster of Liz Truss and the clown show that we witnessed at the Reform Conference at the weekend. 2 parties who would lose control of spending, push up mortgage costs and inflation. They've done it before, and they would do it all over again.
Sir Desmond Swayne.
So why does she think that the United Kingdom is being charged more in interest even than Greece?
Chancellor.
Well, the spread on our gilts over the central bank rate is actually lower in the UK than it is in Greece. So maybe you want to look again at his evidence. The truth is that we've had 5 cuts in interest rates since this government came to office. We are paying high levels of interest on the debt, but the debt was accrued by the party opposite, who destroyed our economy and public services all at once. And we are fixing the mess that they left.
Callum Anderson.
Mr Speaker, the trust of financial markets depends not just on the policy of the government today, but whether we keep our trust tomorrow. And the opposition squandered that trust when they were in government by trying to push through tax cuts that they couldn't afford, that the UK couldn't afford. So does the Chancellor agree with me that actually we on this side of the House also have to make sure that we resist the temptation to duck the tough choices in spending, which not only risks economic stability but will hold back growth?
Okay. Chancellor.
I very much agree with my honourable friend, and that is why we published a spending review earlier this year, a spending review that sets out plans for day-to-day spending for the next 3 years and capital spending for the next 5 years. Everything in that spending review is fully funded and fully costed through the difficult decisions that we had to make in the budget last year to increase taxes, and at the same time the deficit is expected to fall by 1 percentage point of GDP this year.
Bill Lesterson.
Speaker, both the Conservatives and Reform want to repeat the medicine that Liz Truss inflicted on this country, pushing interest rates and mortgages through the roof. Isn't the contrast that this government has provided stability, has provided confidence, and as a result, that's why we've got record levels of private investment in this country, and that we are on the right track to rebuilding this country as a success story, and that can be seen by the fact we have the fastest growth in the G7 as well.
Chancellor.
I thank my honourable friend for that question. The Office of Budget Responsibility forecasts that debt is going to fall during the course of this Parliament, something that never happened under the Conservative government, and that the deficit as a share of GDP will fall by 1 percentage point this year. This is a government that has a grip on the public finances, has a grip on public spending because of the choices that we made. All of those choices opposed by all the parties opposite.
Dave Dougan.
you, Mr Speaker. In the spring statement earlier this year, the Chancellor said the responsible choice is to reduce our level of borrowing in the years ahead. And that's a noble sentiment which I applaud if she wasn't trying to fix a watch with a hammer. Because this is the Chancellor that has seen UK debt interest now soar to a 27-year high. And annual debt interest is almost twice the cost of servicing the Ministry of Defence. So given her catastrophic first budget, what reassurance has she got for Scottish businesses that things will not get even worse when she finally has her budget in the winter?
Chancellor.
I'm not going to take any lectures from the SNP who put up taxes on ordinary working people on Scotland. You, the SNP, the Scottish Government, had the biggest settlement since devolution in real terms at the spending review this year. That was only possible because of the tax changes we made in the budget. It's now up to the SNP Government to use that money wisely and see waiting lists fall in Scotland in a way that they have in England and Wales. Waiting lists are still rising in Scotland. What does that say about their government?
Chris Vince.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can the Chancellor remind us whether national debt went up or down under the previous government?
Chancellor.
Oh, let me just check. Oh, yeah, it went through the roof. And at the same time that our debt levels went up, we have seen public services, whether it is our schools, our hospitals, our transport, our infrastructure, on their knees. The Conservative government managed both to destroy our public finances, destroy our economy, and also our public services. What an achievement. And that's why there's only 120 of them, and they're sitting on those benches. And they'll be there for a long time to come.
Richard Fuller, Shannon Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. UK long-term borrowing costs are now consistently above the range of G7 countries, something that didn't occur at any time under previous coalition or Conservative governments. And that's because markets are pricing in the specific weakness of this Labour government's economic policies. And the cost of that weakness means rising prices, lower investment and less money for public services in the long term. Having carpet-bombed the private sector with extra taxes, will the Chancellor rein back the splurge of unproductive public spending she let rip last year?
Chancellor.
The only person that carpet-bombed our economy was Liz Truss and the party opposite. And the Right Honourable Member supported Liz Truss in the leadership contest and throughout her time. No, he didn't, but he served as in her cabinet. So I'll take no messages from the party opposite. The country would have heard what the Leader of the Opposition said today, talking down our economy in a desperate attempt to get attention. The truth is that the benches opposite know that it is not serious and it is irresponsible. The only thing in Britain that needs a bailout is the Tory party from its failed leadership.
Just half one.
Question number 7, please, Mr Speaker.
Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In the spending review, we put significant money into building more houses as part of our commitment to build 1.5 million homes during the course of this Parliament. The Planning and Infrastructure Bill is currently making its way through the House of Lords, but there are 600 amendments or more to that bill from Lords, mainly from the parties opposite. This party backs the builders, this government backs the builders, whereas the parties opposite back the blockers, and they're stopping young people getting on the housing ladder, stopping renewable energy being built, and stopping the transport infrastructure that we desperately need to build. So instead of opposing and tabling amendments, the parties opposite should back that bill so we can get Britain building.
Just off one.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and can I thank the Chancellor for that answer. I've been banging the drum now for some time that Ilford is the best place to live, especially with 4 Elizabeth Line stations. It's never been more true than now. Barking and Dagenham Council, Redbridge Council are both capitalising on the ambitious generation plans like the developments on Billet Road and Padnell Lake. What is the government doing to encourage businesses to also seize on this investment with investments of their own backing Ilford, its community and its economy?
Chancellor.
I thank my honourable friend for that question and everything that he's doing to champion Ilford South and bring in more investment to his local community. And it's great to have Labour councils working with a Labour government to bring investment to local communities with housing, but also crucially the infrastructure, the schools, the doctors, surgeries, to go alongside that new housing so that we build not just homes but communities.
Gregory Capp.
Mr Speaker, as the Chancellor tries to cut through bureaucratic red tape in terms of planning outlines, can she undertake that, if successful over the course of the next 6 or 12 months, that she will share the success with the other regions and nations in the United Kingdom so that we can all benefit from simplified planning procedures and benefits for all our constituents?
Chancellor.
I thank the honourable gentleman for that question, and I had the opportunity over the summer to spend some time in Belfast, both going to visit Thales, the defence manufacturer, and also go to Studio Ulster to see some of the fantastic work in the creative industries. But during my time there, also had the opportunity to talk about some of the blockers for growth, and we do need to better reform our planning system, not just in England, but also in Northern Ireland and in Scotland as well, so that we can get things built in Britain again. People are crying out for hope. Growth offers hope, investment offers hope, and that's what this government offers too.
Chair of the Treasury Select Committee, Dame Meg Hillier.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I welcome my right honourable friend's commitment to the hope of decent homes. And in my constituency, we're seeing children and families leave in droves, schools closing because of the lack of properly affordable housing. But she knows, as I do, that whatever we do in planning, without the skills that we need to build the homes, we're going to have a block there. So is she working with the new Secretary of State for the Department for Work and Pensions, who's now got the skills brief, to ensure that we're investing in those skills and turbocharging those people who can help build those homes?
Chancellor.
Well, just this September, new construction colleges have started opening around the country to absolutely train up that next generation of builders, of plumbers and engineers, so we can build both the housing infrastructure and the other infrastructure that our country desperately needs. And it's also why we've reformed the apprenticeship system, so we can have more foundation apprenticeships for a shorter period of time to quickly get people the skills they need, and also not requiring people to have a grade C or equivalent in maths and English to access an apprenticeship programme. That is so important for young children who maybe didn't get the grades they wanted in their GCSEs, but deserve a chance of a good apprenticeship and a job offering a decent wage.
Tim Farron.
Mr Speaker, there are 900,000 properties with planning permission unbuilt in this country. So maybe the issue is not that the planning laws are too restrictive, but they're not prescriptive enough. In my constituency, the average income that you would need to be able to buy the average house is £71,000 a year. 11 times is the house price compared to the average income in my communities. Isn't it right to change his planning law to make sure we have to build more genuinely affordable homes for communities like ours, rather than just giving a carte blanche to the developers?
Chancellor.
That can't be an excuse, though, for blocking developments and blocking those people who own land for building more homes on that land, because in the end, the simple law of supply and demand, if we're not building the homes, prices continue to be unaffordable for his constituents. But we're not just allowing builders to build carte blanche, and he absolutely knows that. We put the biggest investment into the affordable homes programme that's ever been seen, because it is important that the homes being built are affordable for families in his constituency and in mine. But we mustn't just always block things, whether it is airports or housing or other infrastructure. We've got to back the builders.
Patrick Herbert.
Number 8, please, Mr Speaker.
Shadow Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr Speaker. The government wants to drive growth through house building, but even before the departure of the Deputy Prime Minister, it was predicted to miss the 1.5 million new homes target by 500,000. How does the Chancellor and her team of tax raisers think a 3,000% hike in the builder's tax, adding £28,000 to the cost of building a new home, will help deliver the new homes that young people need? And rather than consult on it, why won't she rule out this damaging tax rise?
I think the honourable members opposite will recognise that building companies have strongly welcomed the reforms that we've made to get things building, and they're very much against the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats and others in the House of Lords opposing the planning and infrastructure bill that could have been given royal assent by now if the parties opposite weren't opposing it. And instead of scaremongering about something that is being consulted on, maybe he might want to get on and back the positive things that this government are doing. And can I just finally pay tribute to the former Deputy Prime Minister for the amazing work that she did to get housing on the agenda, to build the 1.5 million homes that this country desperately needs, and as well as that, for being an inspiration for so many people from working class backgrounds. I applaud her efforts and her work.
Patrick Hurley.
Number 8, please, sir.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with permission, I'd like to answer this with question number 15. Mr. Speaker, in July, the Chancellor announced the Better Futures Fund, which is the largest social outcomes partnership fund in the world, to break down barriers to opportunity for up to 200,000 vulnerable children and young people. The fund will boost pupil achievement and could fund programmes to reduce reoffending or provide specialist workers for children struggling with exclusion, mental health or crime. DCMS are the department responsible for the design and implementation of the fund, and they are engaging extensively with government departments, the impact economy and civil society sectors, as well as local government partners over the coming months.
Patrick Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Minister for that response. The Better Futures Fund is a big step forward in working with the impact economy, and as the chair of the APPG for Social Enterprise Sector, I'm really pleased to see how it can unlock extra resources from social investors, private businesses and philanthropy to tackle the urgent problems this country has. So can I ask the Minister to ensure that the principles behind the fund are matched with the targeted approach advocated by the Independent Commission on Neighbourhoods to make sure that the money goes where it's best needed?
Minister.
Well, thank my honourable friend very much for his support of what we're seeking to achieve through the Better Futures Fund. And of course, he's absolutely right that the principles on which it will be designed are to make sure the money goes where it's most needed, where it will have the biggest impact. I think these are principles we can all agree on in the design of that fund. And as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, DCMS will be working extensively with government departments, local partners and others to design the scheme as it gets established.
Ms. Twist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our North East Mayor, Kim McGuinness, is taking child poverty seriously, with recently announcing £28.6 million for the North East Child Poverty Action Plan, including funding for a local pilot to expand specialist youth provision and including support which opens up pathways to future employment opportunities. Can the Chancellor set out how she will work with Mayor McGuinness from the earliest stages of the development of the Better Futures Fund to ensure it meets the needs of children and young people in my constituency of Blaydon and Consett and across the North East?
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for her question, and I was in fact pleased to meet Kim McGuinness just last week and to hear about the excellent work she is doing to champion the North East. And more broadly, in terms of the Better Futures Fund in particular, we know that the design of this fund must be truly a joint endeavour, and it must be built up through an open dialogue with a range of different partners who will be involved in the delivery. And I would like to reassure my honourable friend that DCMS's stakeholder engagement includes mayoral strategic authorities, so they will be part of that process.
Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Better Futures Fund rightly targets the needs of vulnerable children. One such group are those who are subject to adoption or kinship arrangements. Last week, the Department for Education announced that they would renew the Adoption and Special Guardianship Support Fund for 1 year, but they did not say that they would reverse the 40% cuts in per-child funding that were announced in the spring. Does the Minister agree that reversing those 40% cuts is vital for protecting families and keeping children in adoption arrangements? And will he meet with adoptive families from mid-Sussex so that he can better understand the benefits to the Treasury that investing in adopted families will bring?
It's a bit, yes.
I thank the honourable member for her question about a very important matter. And as a constituency MP, I've in fact met families who have an interest in the fund and in the process of adoption themselves. And so I know on a personal level from having done my work as a constituency MP how important that is. I think what the Department for Education was able to announce last week was important in confirming the extension of the fund, and that will offer some certainty to those families who are affected. And obviously I will continue to work with colleagues in DfE to make sure we're doing all we can to support those families who are doing such an important role for the children and for society.
Jim Shannon.
Mr Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for a very positive answer and for that commitment. But can the Minister confirm what steps have been taken to ensure that young people in vulnerable communities in Northern Ireland, what discussions have taken place so that they can fully benefit from the Better Futures Fund, particularly in areas most affected by educational disadvantage? Thank you very much.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. And of course, we want to make sure that the Better Futures Fund is targeted where it's most needed, that the investment is spent in a way that really improves the life chances, particularly of young people and children who face some of the biggest challenges ahead. And I note very much what he says about the area that he represents and the part of the UK that he comes from, and that is something which we will consider, obviously, as we develop the details of the fund.
Bobby Dean.
Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tax reliefs are an important feature of the UK tax system, and HMRC has invested significant resources in improving understanding of the cost and effectiveness of them. Since 2009, it has produced costings for 350 reliefs, including detailed analysis of the 38 largest non-structural reliefs that cost, Mr Speaker, more than £500 million a year.
Bobby Dean.
Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answer. He detailed that about 350 reliefs have been assessed, but it's my understanding that over 1,200 of that tax reliefs are on the books, and these amount to hundreds of billions of pounds of foregone revenue for the Treasury. So, given that over the summer the Treasury examined in detail the spending of all departments, I wondered if the Treasury is considering applying the same level of scrutiny to itself.
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question. It is worth noting that some 800 of the 1,200 reliefs that he mentions make sure that the tax system operates as intended by defining the scope of tax correctly and making sure that our tax system operates fairly and simply. I'm sorry to disappoint him, though. I will not be able to comment specifically on any changes that we may or may not make to tax reliefs. Of course, any decisions will be announced at the budget, which is not today.
We now come to Oliver Wright.
Question 10, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, our financial services growth and competitiveness strategy sets out the government's 10-year plan for the sector, making clear our ambition that by 2035 the UK will be the global location of choice for financial services firms to invest, grow and sell their services throughout the UK and to the world. To support this ambition, the government announced the Leeds reforms, the most wide-ranging package of reform to financial services regulation in a decade. These reforms will turbocharge growth, put more money in the pockets of working people and create more good, skilled jobs right across the country.
And I welcome you to new role as well, Oliver Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I also welcome my honourable friend to her role? Mr Speaker, small businesses in Burnley, Padiham and Bryfield are the lifeblood of our community, providing jobs and livelihoods to our people. And growing manufacturers and exporters, like the brilliant Barnes Aerospace in Burnley, are doing an excellent job at taking Britain across the world. Will she set out what the government is doing to support small and medium-sized businesses, particularly our manufacturers, particularly with access to finance?
Mr Speaker, my honourable friend raises an important issue, and it's very good to hear him championing the businesses in his constituency. The government published its small business strategy in July, setting out how we will make the UK the best place to start and grow a business, and putting SMEs at the heart of our growth mission. That includes tackling the barriers SMEs face when accessing finance. That's why the government is committed to increasing the total financial capacity of the British Business Bank to £25.6 billion and introducing a new business growth service which will make it easier and quicker for businesses across the UK to get the help, support and advice they need to grow and to thrive.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Could I warmly welcome the new Economic Secretary to her role. Over the summer, I have been looking at issues around liquidity in the London Stock Exchange and the deterioration that has happened. Given only 15% of share trades attract stamp duty and much more trading is conducted in a dark environment, would the new Economic Secretary meet with me so I could share some of my concerns and concerns of those in the city so that you can move forward in a positive direction?
Mr Speaker, and I pay tribute to the work the honourable member has done in this area and say that I'd be more than happy to meet with him to discuss those areas.
Mark Garnier, Shadow Minister.
Speaker, and can I also congratulate the member for Northampton North on her elevation to the Economic Secretary to the Treasury. I'm sure she will do very well. Now, Mr. Speaker, we know that the UK banking sector provides a valuable service to our economy, keeping money in circulation, funding businesses, funding mortgages and all the rest of it. And we also know that the financial services sector are the UK's biggest export sector. And according to UK Finance, UK banks generate around £45 billion a year of tax every year. But because of things like the bank levy, the UK banks now pay an effective rate of around 46%, which is higher than our competitors of New York, Frankfurt, Dublin, Singapore. Now, Mr. Speaker, we know that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has managed to dig her own £30 billion black hole in the economy. But can the Minister reassure the City of London and reassure this House that there is no plans to increase taxes on our banking and wider financial services sector in the upcoming budget in November? Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the lecture. I know that they introduced the bank levy, though. Right. Thank you. The government is committed to responsibly promoting the growth and competitiveness of the sector, and of course we keep the bank tax regime under review.
Comes Dr. Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question one.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's going very
well. This government are committed to grow the economy. We're the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of this year. We've done 3 trade deals and cut interest rates 5 times. I didn't even need to look at my notes to remember all that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. New polling by the Trade Union Congress shows that the public overwhelmingly supports packages of taxes on wealth, on banks and on gambling companies. It also found that 74% of 2024 Labour voters now leaning towards reform also back these measures. Will the Chancellor commit to protecting working people from higher taxes on their income by ensuring that wealth pays its fair share rather than imposing cuts and regressive measures?
Chancellor.
Thank you, my honourable friend, for that question. In the budget last year, we got rid of the non-dom tax status. We put up capital gains tax. We started treating carried interest as income, not as capital gains. We introduced new taxes on private jets. We put VAT and business rates on private school fees. And, of course, we changed the rules around agricultural property relief, so people who have farms worth more than £3 million would pay inheritance tax, although at half the rate that everybody else does. So there was a number of measures last year to ensure that the wealthy pay their fair share. Some countries around the world do have a wealth tax, but countries like Switzerland, for example, don't have inheritance tax. I think it would be a mistake to get rid of inheritance tax and replace it with an unproven tax without knowing what revenue it would bring in.
Shadow Minister Richard Fuller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. May I welcome the new members of the Treasury team and their courage in joining it, and also add those of the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer who couldn't be with us today. And can I particularly welcome the new Chief Secretary, who replaces the old Chief Secretary, who is now the new Chief Secretary. Earlier this year, Labour made a mess of its welfare reform proposals because they were rushed out to help plug a £5 billion gap in public finances. The result was chaos and a humiliating reversal for the Chancellor. Welfare spending is too high. It does need reform. And today, the Leader of the Opposition has pledged Conservative support to help the government develop a thoughtful plan on welfare reform. Will the Chancellor take up this offer of support?
Shadow Ministers, it is topical as well for everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst the Leader of the Opposition is talking down the British economy, we are setting our sights on growing the economy and making working people better off. And no, we won't be taking any advice from the Leader of the Opposition, who is part of a government that crashed the economy, sending mortgage rates spiralling and putting pensions in peril.
Richard Fuller.
Mr. Speaker, I fear the dismissive response of the Chancellor fails to acknowledge either the serious state of public finances or the serious difficulties of her own position. Having extended economic uncertainty until just before Christmas, will the Chancellor at least confirm the November budget will include savings from welfare reform?
Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, in the legislation that was passed before the summer recess, we did reform the universal credit system in a way to reduce the gap between what people on the health element and the standard element got. A reform that will help more people into work, as well as the £1 billion package of measures to help people, particularly those who have been long-term unemployed, get back to work. The honourable gentleman opposite says that is spending. Well, actually, getting people into work, paying taxes and paying less on benefits is good for the economy, and it's good for those people who go back into work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Friday, I visited Demelza Children's Hospice, which does amazing work for children and their families, but they need certainty and sustainable funding to survive. So will the Chancellor consider extending the Children's Hospice grant for the next 5 years, increased in line with inflation, to help them to plan and to deliver these vital services?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Government is investing £100 million to improve hospices' facilities and a further £26 million of revenue funding to support children and young people's hospices this year. This is the biggest investment in hospices in a generation, and details about the funding arrangements for 26-27 will be set out by the Department for Health and Social Care in due course.
Helen Maguire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pubs are at the heart of the community in North Shropshire, whether they are community-owned pubs like the White Lion in Ash or the Horse and Jockey at Northwood, Camera Pub of the Year like the Bailey Head in Oswestry, or attached to a microbrewery like the Stonehouse Brewery in Malda. But all of those hospitality businesses are buckling under the strain of higher business rates, the national insurance increase, and higher energy costs. Can I add my plea to those of my colleagues and ask the Chancellor that in the upcoming budget there are measures in place to support our struggling hospitality industry?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as set out at the last budget, we're going to introduce permanently lower tax rates for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses with rateable values below £500,000. The relief that we inherited from the previous government was due to end entirely in April of this year. We extended it for 1 year to give us time to introduce the legislation for permanently lower tax cuts for pubs across this country.
Eleanor Dolan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently visited the Ghost Terminal at Ashford International train station, where Eurostar shamefully stopped trains 5 years ago. A report last month found that bringing back those international trains to Ashford could bring over £2.5 billion of benefit to our local economy in Sussex and Kent, more jobs and more visitors for my constituents in Hastings and Rye. So will the Chancellor join me in calling on the train operators and the rail regulator to grasp this opportunity for growth?
Chancellor.
I thank my honourable friend for that question and for the work that she is doing to help grow the economy in all parts of the country, including in Kent and in Sussex. The Government have made significant commitments on the expansion of international rail services, and we're working closely with both the German and the Swiss governments on direct links between our countries. There's work underway to understand the prospects for expansion at the number of services on the Channel Tunnel rail link, and I absolutely agree that new opportunities at both Ashford and Ebbsfleet have a huge potential for helping to grow the economy and giving more opportunities in people in those communities to access good jobs and other leisure opportunities.
Cameron Thomas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. The 52 pubs in my constituency provide vital community spaces, and they tell me that this government has hit them disproportionately hard with its increases in employer NICs, on top of soaring energy prices and as yet unfulfilled promises on business rates. Ahead of the autumn budget, can the Chancellor tell me what measures she's going to take to protect our local independent pubs and small businesses?
Chancellor.
I absolutely recognise that, that businesses face challenges, but they also have lower borrowing costs because of the 5 cuts in interest rates. Because of the stability that we've returned to the economy, the Bank of England were able to do that. But it would be good to have a bit more honesty from political parties. If you oppose the national insurance increase, then you oppose the extra money for the National Health Service. If you stood up and said that, you might get a little bit more respect and credibility.
Tim Rocken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Macclesfield, we're very lucky to have a thriving life sciences sector. And at AstraZeneca, we have 5,000 people employed in well-paid jobs across the pharmaceutical value chain. So can I ask, what is the Treasury and the government doing to ensure we take advantage of the innovation we produce here in the UK for the benefit of our local life sciences economies?
Chancellor.
My honourable friend is a proud advocate for his constituents in Macclesfield and doing great work to bring more investment into the local area. Life sciences was one of the 8 sectors that is part of our modern industrial strategy that this government are championing. That's why we put record investment into R&D in the spending review earlier this year, and why we're supporting our universities to help create more spin-outs to ensure that we can have more homegrown British businesses, as well as backing the big businesses like AstraZeneca that operate in his own constituency.
Will Forster.
Speaker, with the government considering a dramatic increase in the landfill tax, how does the Chancellor think we will build as a country the 1.5 million homes we need by the end of the Parliament if we add £24,000 on average to the average house price? How does that help my constituents of Woking get a home?
Yeah.
I thank the honourable gentleman for that question. There's a consultation going on, and I welcome him and others to feed into that consultation. But if he's serious about backing the builders and not the blockers, why do the Lib Dems fail to support the planning and infrastructure bill, both in this House and in the other House?
Johnson.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker. As the 6th richest economy in the world, we shouldn't have 4.5 million children living in poverty. The former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has proposed raising £3 billion by looking at reforming the gambling taxation. So will the Chancellor consider undertaking these reforms so that we can end the epidemic of child poverty?
Yeah. Minister.
I thank the honourable member and my honourable friend for her question. The issue of child poverty is incredibly important to this government, and the Child Poverty Task Force will report later this year. May I add, Mr. Speaker, this is also a really important personal issue for me. I grew up in a family where we had very little money, and I received free school meals as a child. And for those children across the country who are living in poverty right now, I hope they and their parents will know that this government is on their side, and we will do all we can to invest in our welfare system, invest in our economy, and invest in making sure more people can get into work so we can get poverty down rather than have it rising as it did under the previous government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hiking excise duty by 14% in the past 2 years was expected to raise the Treasury £600 million in duty in spirits, but it's actually cost £600 million. With 70% of spirits produced in Scotland, this is nothing short of a tax in Scotland. Right. There's 77 days to back Scotch, support Scotland and sustain growth in the iconic and entrepreneurial sector. Will she therefore commit to reversing the government's attacks on a great Scottish success story and bring down whisky duty at the budget?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that question. Over 90% of Scotch is exported, so it isn't affected by the measures the honourable member has just mentioned, but it will be affected, and the biggest beneficiary of the trade deal with India, which is set to reduce tariffs from 150 to 75% initially, and then to 40% over time. That is what a government getting on with backing the Scotch industry looks like.
Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown.
I've been campaigning for a long time on the reinstatement of tax-free shopping for foreign visitors, but particularly those from Europe. Recent evidence from business suggests that we are losing £6 billion of income from this potential change, and £500 million in extra VAT generated from those tourists. Will the Chancellor undertake to look at this matter again, because it has the potential from these high-spending tourists to benefit our hard-pressed hospitality industry and could be a quick win-win for this country?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this matter has been looked at by the previous government several times, and I understand that under the previous government there was some pressure for their ministers to look at it again. They did, and they came to the same conclusion, which is not to proceed with reintroducing it.
Lynn Jones.
Mr. Speaker, Belfield Interchange is situated on the A77. Its location has significant strategic importance within the South West Trunk Road network connecting to A71, A735 and A76, making it critical for transport and economic connectivity across the Ayrshire region and beyond. Now, East Ayrshire Council had previously submitted a levelling up fund bid to the previous Tory government to upgrade the interchange, but was rejected. Now, given the Chancellor's recent announcement of £66 million UK government investment in Scottish transport infrastructure, would my right honourable friend join me calling on the Scottish Government to invest and agree to vital infrastructure projects such as upgrading the Belfield interchange to support the Ayrshire Growth Deal, to unlock growth, deliver jobs and prosperity across the region?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend that it is critical that the Scottish Government uses the funding it has received to invest in vital infrastructure projects that support growth and put more money in people's pockets.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm now going to go on to the UQ. So I'll let the front bench clear. Right, we now come to the urgent question. Derek Twigg.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Business and Trade if he will make a statement on the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover and what assistance the government is giving to businesses to help protect them against cyber attacks.
Minister, and welcome to your new job.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Let me start by saying I fully recognise the anxiety and deep concern that employees will be feeling at Jaguar Land Rover and across the supply chain. We, the Government and the National Cyber Security Centre will do everything in our power to help resolve this as soon as we possibly can. We are engaging with JLR on a daily basis to understand the challenges they and their suppliers are facing and are monitoring the situation very closely. I have spoken to the company myself and will have a further meeting with the Chief Executive Officer later this week. The company has also invited local MPs, I understand, to a question and answer session this Friday. The NCSC has been working with Jaguar Land Rover since last Wednesday to provide support in relation to the incident. I'm sorry that there's a limit to what I can say in relation to the specifics because I don't want to prejudice the ongoing investigations. The cybersecurity of the UK, however, is a key priority for the Government, crucial to protecting the public and our way of life and a successful growing economy. We have been taking significant action to help protect businesses against cyber attacks. We're reducing cyber risk across the economy by making technology more secure by design. This includes the Product Security Act 2022, which was introduced by the previous government, which requires manufacturers to build security into the manufacture and operation of internet-connected devices. The Software Security Code of Practice, which sets out how vendors and developers should make their software more secure. And the AI Cyber Security Code of Practice, which sets out how AI developers should design and operate AI systems securely. We're also providing businesses with the tools, advice and support to protect themselves from cyber threats. This includes the Cyber Governance Code of Practice, which shows boards and directors how to effectively manage the digital risks to their organisation, the highly effective Cyber Essentials Scheme to prevent common attacks, reducing the likelihood of a cyber insurance claim by 92%, and a wide range of free tools and support from the National Cyber Security Centre, including training for boards and staff, the Check Your Cyber Security tools to test IT systems for vulnerabilities, and the early warning system to get notified about cyber threats to your networks. I urge all businesses to take up these tools and improve their cyber defences. Mr Speaker, it's not for me to announce a future business of the House, but when parliamentary time allows, the Government will introduce the Cyber Security and Resilience Bill to raise cyber security standards in critical and essential services such as energy, water and the NHS.
Thank you. Derek Twigg.
Mr Speaker, I'm very grateful, Mr Speaker, to you for granting this UQ, and as a North West MP, you know how important what a large employer JLR is in the North West. As we've heard, this serious cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover has stopped production, halted sales, staff have been instructed to stay at home. The car plants at Halewood in my constituency and Solihull and other production facilities around the world have been able to operate, I believe. And from what has been reported, JR shut down its IT systems in response to the attack. I believe dealerships have been unable to register new cars. And initially, at least, garages which maintain JLR vehicles were unable to order parts that they needed. The JLR Halewood plant in my constituency is a very important and valued employer. Many of my constituents are employers, which is also the case with my neighbouring Merseyside MPs. Thousands of jobs in the supply chain are affected. Despite this cyber attack happening just over a week ago on one of our most important businesses, which has nearly 33,000 direct employees and, of course, a huge supply chain, disappointed that no statement had been made to Parliament of what actions have been taken to help the company or prevent future attacks. The latest attack raises wider issues following on from the attack on Marks and Spencer's. These two incidents in themselves are very worrying. One would like to believe that all companies reviewed their cyber security after the M&S attack. But if these attacks continue, there could be an ongoing and even more serious effect on our economy. What is the government doing to help protect our businesses from cybercrime? I've heard something what the Minister said today, but it's in our national security interest for them to work closely with business. Is there an underlying weakness in how business is dealing with cyber security? In this regard, Mr Speaker, we heard from Kieran Martin, former head of the National Cyber Security Centre, on the Today programme this morning, suggesting maybe companies are focusing more on protecting customer data at the expense of the security of their operations. Mr Speaker, I believe this House needs to learn more in the coming months about what the government is doing to work with business and doing to help prevent these attacks being successful, which are a threat to our economy and national security.
Minister. First of all, can I commend my honourable friend on seeking this urgent question and you on granting it, Mr Speaker. He makes a perfectly good point that obviously not only is Jaguar Land Rover a really important national iconic brand, but it's also a very significant employer, some 34,000 people in the UK, 39,000 around the world, and obviously in my honourable friend's constituency. He is right that we need to ensure that cybersecurity is something that every single company in the land, and for that matter, public sector organisations take very seriously. In my previous role, I was very conscious of the attack on the British Library, which was actually one of the most significant financially heretofore, and did point the way for some of the other issues that are arising across the economy, which is why we've been very keen to bring forward, as we stated in the King's speech, that we'll be having a bill on this. I hope that I'm going to use the word soon, Mr Speaker. I think I can get away with that with the Chief Whip and the Leader of the House. We will be introducing such a bill soon, though I would just say in the words of Humpty Dumpty that when I use the word it means precisely what I choose it to mean, no more and certainly no less. But he is right that there are very serious issues that we need to address across the whole of the economy to make sure that we get that right. He pointed to one person, I point to another, Richard Horne, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Cyber Security Centre, who's recently stressed that the UK is facing increasingly hostile activity in cyberspace. We simply cannot afford any degree of complacency in this. There are major criminals operating in this space, as well as some malicious state actors, and some 40% of companies in the UK last year reported that they had faced some kind of cyber attack. So it is a very important issue that we take seriously.
Shadow Minister Dame Harriet Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and can I congratulate the honourable gentleman on securing this important urgent question and welcome the Minister to his new role. I'm never going to be able to rival him in terms of his literary quotations, though, but I do think that this cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover is extremely concerning. It is a world-leading business, and the impact clearly on the business, the suppliers, the workers has been significant. And I hope that the whole House agrees that we must use the full force of the state to crack down on cyber criminals. So can the Minister, and I appreciate he is constrained in terms of what he can say, but can he inform us when the government and the National Cyber Security Centre were informed of the attack? What kind of support is the government and law enforcement agencies able to offer Jaguar Land Rover? Is there any assessment of how much longer the government expects this disruption to continue, because it's really impacting the supply of vehicles? And this attack is just another in a series of attacks that have taken place against British brands, iconic institutions, and he says 40% of our businesses, including the attack earlier this year against Marks and Spencer's. So how is the government acting to prevent future attacks? Can he elaborate on that? Has he identified who is responsible for this attack? Can he rule out this being a state-sponsored attack? And if the group responsible for the 2 attacks on Jaguar Land Rover and Marks and Spencer's are linked, what progress have law enforcement agencies made in pursuing them? Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure whether the Shadow Minister is in a new role. She's not, so I won't welcome her to her new role then. I welcome her to the dispatch box nonetheless. She's asked a series of questions. I'll try and answer the ones that I can as precisely as possible. First of all, she asked when they were notified and when they were engaged. The NCSC have been engaged since last Wednesday, and we do have an undertaking that when people do get in touch with the NCSC, we will get into the response will be very immediate. Secondly, she asked what engagement there is from government, so that obviously the primary engagement is through the NCSC, and they are fully engaged and devoted a team to the work there. It's also in the public domain, I think, that the ICO the Information Commissioner's Office were notified. That's not because I should clarify that JLR are certain that there has been a data breach, but they want to make sure that they've dotted every I and crossed every T, so that's why they've notified the Information Commissioner's Office, who are also engaged. She asked about a timeline, about when we're going to get this resolved. I really wish I'd be able to provide that. I can't. And I think she will understand why. This is a very live situation. This has been ongoing for a week. I note the points that JLR have been making themselves. And as I say, there's going to be an invitation. I think my honourable friend should already have had one for all local MPs to a Q&A session on Friday morning, when they hope that they might be able to provide more information. One of the issues she asked was about what else we're doing. Well, one of the things that we did this summer was the Home Office did a consultation on our policy on ransomware, because obviously I'm not saying that is specifically in relation to this case. We don't know whether it is as yet. I'm not making coming to any foregone conclusions, but obviously that's one of the things that we need to address, and it was heartening